Israel, the IDF, are serial killers. More and more unprovoked, hunting, chasing down, harassing, terrorizing, murdering people, addicted to killing. What happened to Amal Khalil and photographer Zainab, it's hard to get this out of one's mind. It's just horrendous. Precision is really important. The ICJ, International Court of Justice, is going to give a verdict on genocide in Gaza. It is the case that South Africa brought forth against the State of Israel. Therefore, precision is important. What we know, and Israel has itself admitted, that over 70,000 people were killed in Gaza, that we know of. Thousands are still buried under the rubble. Over 20,000 children were murdered. Thousands are still buried under the rubble. So precision is really important. The figure that we know of is that 20,000 children were killed. Hundreds of journalists were killed. It wasn't happenstance. It wasn't that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were hunted down. They were sent threatening messages. They were told they were going to be killed. And they were. Drones found them. Airstrikes found them. Found their families. High-tech methodology supported by Silicon Valley, eagerly supported by Silicon Valley, hunted human beings down. Journalists. American journalists had nothing to say. No solidarity. Nothing. No international journalists were allowed into Gaza and still are not. It was the bravery of the Gazan journalists who were telling us what was going on. And that is precisely why they were being killed. Do we remember how quickly the Israelis reacted when Jeremy Diamond filmed their aggression against CNN crew? Do we remember that? Yes, immediately. Immediately. They disciplined the unit that detained the CNN crew. No such luck for the Palestinian journalists who were hunted down and massacred in Gaza, and American journalists simply stayed quiet, did nothing. BBC and Sky News did nothing but justify it. Headlines appeared without naming who killed them. They just dropped dead. Journalists killed in Gaza. Unconscionable. And yesterday, what happened to these two journalists is unconscionable. The serial killers, the mass murderers, found more victims, knowing that the world will do nothing. Europe had a chance 2 days ago to suspend the association agreement with Israel. Germany and Italy refused to let them do it. Instead, Kaya Kallas talked about sanctions on Iran, militarizing the Strait of Hormuz, and von der Leyen talked about Turkey being a threat to Europe. The result? More impunity by Israel. The result? The massacre of journalists. The result? Hunting down and assassinating Amal Khalil. That is a result of shameful behavior by those who could do something to stop it, at least to put the brakes on. The statue of Christ being smashed was so much more important than a journalist being hunted and struck and dying under the rubble, and rescue workers being prevented from saving her. I think on Saturday, the White House Journalists Association is going to be partying with Donald Trump, the man who calls them the enemy of the people, the man who's gone after individual journalists, attacked them, called them names, sued media companies bending the knee and paying him. They will be celebrating with Donald Trump. What are they celebrating? What exactly are they celebrating? This is why Israel continues to massacre journalists. Listen to Lina Sinjab reporting on BBC about what happened to Amal.
The killing of Amal Khalil, the journalist, and she is not the first journalist to be killed by Israeli airstrike this war. 4 other journalists have been killed in the last month. And this has really sparked a lot of anger here in Lebanon. There is a sit-in planned at noon, within an hour's time from now in central Beirut. And the body of Amal Khalil will be buried. There's a funeral at 4 p.m. local in her own village in the south of Lebanon. The details of the attack are also quite shocking in accordance to official records here, where, after the airstrike, the rescue team tried to rescue them. They've managed to retrieve the bodies of the 2 who were killed in the airstrikes, which Amal and her colleague were trying to cover. And then they've managed to, help Zainab, the photographer, with her and take her to nearby hospital. But they were also under attack, and then the civil defense had to wait for 4 hours before they were allowed in, and they spent 3 more hours digging under rubble in the presence of the Lebanese army before they've managed to retrieve the lifeless body of Amal Khalil. Her newspaper, her colleagues of journalists, but also the wider public here are really saddened about this news. They call this a violation of the civil rights and the international law by targeting, journalists clearly. And they've remembered Amal and her, courageous reporting of the south, of the civilian situation in the south. This is the deadliest day yesterday, where 5 people were killed, including Amal, since the ceasefire was announced, which is a fragile ceasefire.
The Lebanese and Israelis are supposed to be meeting today in Washington. What are you negotiating? How is this happening? Today is Amal's funeral. At 4 p.m. Lebanon time, she'll be buried in the south in her village. She belonged to that land, to that soil. Whether she was a journalist or not, she had a right to be on her soil. This brutality is being armed and financed by the United States and Europe. This impunity is being enabled by the United States and by Europe. And the GCC countries couldn't give a damn. Couldn't give a damn. Yeah, American journalists will be partying with Donald Trump this weekend. What more can define the state of American media today than that?